And welcome back to another Geek Centurions. Me, boy, Eli.
It's me, Joe.
We're talking about Ahsoka episode 3, right?
Yeah, because
It threw me off because I was like, the first two episodes were already released last week.
yeah. So
It's gonna be a short one because there's really not much to talk about. There's a lot of things we can craft around it though. But essentially, Ahsoka is essentially teaching Sabine. I know, I almost forgot her name. More about the Force, and then more, and reintroduces us in a way that something that we all know about the Force, and just pretty much says like, hey, this is the Force, guys, relax, okay? Something that we talked about earlier, when it comes to what the Force kind of was, and then how it was changed, and how that change kind of like bothered a lot of people.
yeah, because we definitely are in sort of more like the spiritual kind of thing. Because I mean, Sabine is obviously struggling with being able to use the Force, like she can't use it, and it's kind of like one of those things of like Ahsoka is like, oh, but everything has the Force around them, that sort of thing. And it's like, well, then how come how come everybody doesn't use it then?
Yeah, and so instead of saying like the thing we all know about like midichlorians, it's like no. It's just like some people are more adept at it. Some people just need a little more time to make it come out, while others are more like, yeah, they might not be able to catch it.
Yeah, it's very much a lot of some inherent talent, but for the most part, it's a lot of mental discipline and training to even harness the Force and stuff.
It's what we've all thought the Force was before the introduction of midichlorians, right? And this is not us trying to harp on the idea of midichlorians. It's more of helping us understand as to why some people are able to use the Force while others aren't, right? Because the midichlorians was a very understandable way of like, it's a more scientific way of explaining how when you find someone with Force abilities, right?
Yeah, like it kind of like made it sort of like, oh, certain people, if they have the high enough midichlorians, are able to harness the Force and sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like what
because ideally Anakin wouldn't be able to use the Force. He was still in Tatooine as a slave.
Yeah, like obviously, like even if he had high midichlorians, if the Jedi never found him, he would have still be a slave on Tatooine, not having Force powers, right?
Yeah.
It is kind of one of the things of like, oh yes, like you need to have training and talent and all this
to
stuff.
to have it come out.
Yeah, like it just doesn't.
Yeah, midichlorians are more of like a way for us to to know if someone has that innate talent, right? And I guess that's what it was. I guess for a lot of people that's what it's always kind of been. For some people it's like, I still don't like the sound of it because it's again putting something scientific to something that would be more spiritual. Because that's kind of like the thing that Ahsoka's saying, like it's saying in more of a spiritual sense. Like some people have it, some people don't. All it takes is training. That's really what it is. But yeah, no, Sabine herself is like having a hard time training because she was born a Mandalorian.
Which I didn't know that like that. I mean, I know in the lore of Star Wars, obviously, the whole dark saber thing is based on a Mandalorian who became a Jedi and made the dark saber.
Yeah.
I know that's a huge part of the lore, but I didn't really expect it to be just, oh yeah, Mandalorians aren't it's very rare for them to ever become Force sensitive and be Jedi's.
Yeah, because like it's one of those things where like going further like into like what lore is and like what easy to assume is that the Mandalorians are essentially more of a they're not spiritual, I guess, or they are, but not in that sense, right? Like they focus on weaponry, on machinery, all that stuff that we kind of like assume or already know of Mandalorians to have, right? While the Jedi are more mystical in a sense. We said it before, like the idea that they're wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they focus on a lot of stuff. it's like that's why the Jedi are the way they are, and the Mandalorians are the way they are. That's why I think a Mandalorian would be very difficult to have learn that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's this is a lot of differentiating cultures, especially what we know of, like the Mando in the Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
His whole sect are very old school. Like heck, even Bo-Katan and them are like that's a very like
Yeah.
old school way of thinking in terms of Mandalorians and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do see how like just in general how a lot of Mandalorians sort of have this sort of like what is this nonsense, this magical nonsense? I don't care for it.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I respect it, but I don't like it. Kind of shit.
Yeah, in a way.
No, yeah, and so like that's kind of like the explanation as to why Sabine has a hard time, because she is this pretty much like of like reaction of like if I don't see it, I don't see it, kind of stuff. Hence why they had to do the classic put the visor down kind of shit.
Yeah, and obviously, classic callback. Like, how am I supposed to fight if I can't even see?
Like
You know?
exactly.
Yeah, it's all about trusting your senses and your instincts and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm just like, that's pretty. That's a neat way.
that's a neat way. Yeah. Um, Obviously that's the side A story. The expanding relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine, which is I feel like is the main point of the story between their relationship. But in a more interesting aspect, not saying it's not interesting, but like another interesting side is Hera's story, where she's trying to get people to hey, Thrawn's coming back, guys. We gotta get the team back together.
Yeah, convincing the New Republic to
Mhm.
send a fleet to help out.
Yeah.
Ahsoka in them, and we see a little bit of
The politics that would go around, right?
yeah,
Because it's not Star Wars without some level of politics, but it's also, and we've talked about this before, and the thing that makes kind of like this story, this time period of this story make it so interesting is that this is a point where it's after the war, and it's reconstruction, right? It's the reconstruction of a government. How do you do that? What challenges are there going to be? And the challenges is that you know should we put our resources into I wouldn't say exterminate, but to get rid of any insurgents.
get like finish off the rest of the Imperial remnants, right?
Exactly. Or do we focus our time on rebuilding?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's kind of like the core of the issue. Now, granted, whether or not you feel that's what's being told is up to you, right? Because essentially, Hera is failing. We want to, go after these guys. They're up to something, and if what we think is right, this could mean the return of Thrawn, who again is like the big bad lead, right?
Yeah, he's a big threat, and that's sort of Hera's deal of like, hey, listen, these guys might be trying to bring Thrawn back, and everybody hears, everybody there is kind of just like Thrawn, but he's supposed to be dead, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
no, he's probably still alive.
Mhm.
He might be still alive. That's what we need to figure out. We need to essentially like stop a huge potential invasion and like war from breaking out before it actually happens, kind of thing. Hera is very, and that's her whole argument of like we need to prevent a war from starting by stopping these guys from trying to find Thrawn, even if he's not like out there.
Mhm.
And most of the council are just most of the senators and stuff are just like, I don't know. That's I mean, we don't have any strong evidence of Thrawn even being back.
Mhm.
We could be using all these other resources for other stuff, and heck, we are, are you sure this isn't just like a weird project to just see whether or not Ezra is still out there?
Yeah, because that's what that's like the main argument that one of the senators has on Hera is like, are you sure this isn't like you being reactive to the fact that hey, there might be a chance that your friend is alive, who like maybe dead too. It's like, you don't know that. Shut up. And it's like, understandable, Hitter. I understand where you're coming from, but that's probably not the best way to respond.
I mean, yeah, and heck, even the whole thing of like, hey, we got attacked by Imperial loyalists that were still loyal to the Empire and stuff, and one of the senators is like, oh, but we have a bunch of people who were former Empire people, but they signed a loyalty thing, like there's no way that could possibly happen. It's like, well, it happened. I don't know how to. Apparently, that's not enough.
It's definitely not enough.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Depending on how you feel about the way they're portraying politics in this one, well, I feel like it makes sense as to why they're having these issues. Some of the way the characters, specifically the senators, are written, it's meant to be very like just antagonistic and nothing else.
It's more a little bit of that, but I also feel it's more of just like kind of like weirdly apathetic. Like, whatever.
Okay, I see what you're going with. Yeah, like a slap on the wrist kind of thing.
It's something like that, just like, like that doesn't seem likely. Everything's working perfectly fine. I have no idea why we're having these issues here. None whatsoever.
None whatsoever. But I do think it's interesting that there's a line that really caught my attention, and it was from Hera, right? And it was the question of whether or not one of the senators has ever been in war, right? It was like, have you been in war, or you were just waiting on to see who came out on top? Which indicates like, okay, are you with these guys, or are you just in it for yourself? Right? Which oftentimes is a question that you have to think about when it comes to the transfer of power, right? Within these world governments. Do they involve themselves, or do they, stay, on the side and wait till it's all over?
I mean, I guess in terms of real world stuff, I mean, you had Switzerland, who was notoriously neutral on almost everything.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure during the Second World War, they'll just shoot anybody out of the sky that got close into the air range. Just was like, hey, none of this. Don't bring your nonsense over here. We're neutral in this situation.
Don't bring your Nazis and Nazi ideology here. Don't bring your American imperialism in here. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely, I guess, a counterpoint of like just, we wanted to remain neutral because I mean we didn't have a stake in this fight to begin with, kind of thing, or whatever. But he doesn't really say that at all.
No.
He just kind of just says like, yeah, I didn't. He doesn't even like respond much to the accusation. Like, we're just waiting on the sidelines, see who comes out on top. And he's just like, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you're not wrong on that, Hera.
Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, I kind of want to see where more of that story goes because I said this before, I am very interested in see like the politics of like how, the New Republic was formed and kind of stuff, right? Because like that would lead to a lot of like conflicts, right? A lot of changing of ways of life.
Yeah, and we for the most part we do see. I mean, it seems like it's a running trend. I mean, heck, in season 3 of Mandalorian, there's the whole like X-wing like dude who's working for the New Republic and stuff, having to like sort of use Mando as a way to like to get stuff that he can't do.
Yeah, he has to find a way to work around the law.
Yeah, he has to work around all the bureaucracy.
Yeah, because there's so much paperwork and there's so much stuff going around that like they probably wouldn't even have time for. That's the whole point of like that one guy who's in SNL whose name I forget. The guy who the bureaucracy guy.
Okay, yeah, I think I remember.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. No, but like so like he like the whole point of his thing was that we had to put more our attention on more bigger stuff that's like in the rim, not on the outer rim of space, and obviously like hey we can't be doing that because like the chances are there's still probably there and it's pretty almost lawless. They need people like us there, and it's like fair enough, but paperwork and bureaucracy. Hence why they would get someone like Mando and his group of people to be doing stuff for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that way they at least feel somewhat safe. So it's like I said, I'm very interested in that aspect as to like how much politics are involved in that stuff. Because like in any form of like big change to history, there's always a lot of resistance and there's always a lot of problems that come with it.
Yeah, no, yeah, that definitely
Yeah, and
makes
like,
sense.
well, that's as much as I'm saying, but like to go back to what's going on with that. It's something I found funny that you didn't know because you never watched Rebels.
No, I did not.
I've watched a little bit of Rebels, so I know a little bit of stuff what happened, especially towards the end. You were caught off guard by the fact that Hera has a kid with some guy.
Well, I knew. I mean, in the first two episodes, they do mention that yeah, Hera is a mom.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're making jokes about it in the last review of she being her. Not only was she teen mom, she actually became a mom. You
Yeah.
know? But in my brain, I didn't expect the kid to just look like a regular kid.
But he has green hair because her mom is green skinned.
Yeah, and it was. I think I had asked you after I finished watching the episode, just like, so does this like, so I'm guessing like interspecies, like, I mean, interspecies romance stuff. Obviously, it happens in Star Wars universe.
Stuff,
It happens in any sci-fi setting, right? It's it's like, oh, so like not only can they have kids together, but they don't look like any weird like cross hybrid kind of thing. No, it's just no. It looks like a regular kid. I guess with green hair, which is I guess makes sense. If he had green skin and looked, I'll be like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
With like human hair or whatever. All right. But no, just like a regular looking kid. I'm like, oh, okay, wow.
Who happened? He's still going through. Who just started his emo phase.
I'm just like, I was thinking, I'm like, oh wait, is that what they meant? Did she adopt a kid? Is that what happened? Like, oh no, that's straight up flesh and blood stuff.
Yeah.
That's okay, all right, that sure, I guess.
That's how it works.
I mean, it's Star Wars. I mean, we have space wizards and like like laser swords and stuff. So
don't think about it.
Yeah, I guess I guess it makes sense. I mean, heck, like I said earlier, in any other like sci-fi setting, like yeah, there's like a bunch of interspecies stuff, and it's like, wait, that's not possible? How is Goku a Saiyan, like having kids and stuff?
How is Superman a Kryptonian having?
How does he have kids? That doesn't make any sense. Shut up! It's fiction.
Yeah.
Like this stuff is allowed to happen, and it's like, all right, yep, fair, yep, fair.
But wouldn't he have a different photo? Shut up.
Yeah, it's just one of those things.
I just thought it was really funny that you didn't that just caught you off guard for something.
Well, I mean, it's just again, and I'm just like, all right, that's an interesting bit of knowledge that I guess I should have assumed might happen in the Star Wars universe, but it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's weird confirmation, I guess.
But to bring it all in, they eventually find the station with Morgan and the other two Jedi's or Sith, I guess that's what they are. And big space battle. That's eventually the last few minutes of the episode, and now stuck on a planet.
Well, not only stuck on a planet, you got some space whale stuff going on.
Space whale.
Yeah, it's in the Purat.
Yeah.
Purgit? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Some weird word.
Yeah, but basically, obviously, the whole plan, I think we mentioned it in the last episode, is that seemingly they're creating this, I didn't know there was actually a term for it, a hyperspace, like ring or something.
Yeah. Of
just being so strong that it can, like, shoot across galaxies. Because obviously, Thrawn is in a different galaxy. So that's their way of bringing him back.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's just so it feels like we're at the certain point. I still have not checked out how many episodes there are, but I really hope this is not the middle of the episode. The season.
Yeah, like we haven't reached halfway point.
Yeah, because if it's 6, we're already halfway, and I'm already not feeling okay about it if that's the case. But we have to wait and see. But yeah, no, this is gonna be on one of our more shorter episodes. I feel because there's not much really to talk about.
I mean, heck, it makes sense too because this episode was like about more like at least 30 minutes long, but
Yeah.
the other two episodes were like I think episode 1 was like at least 50, episode 2 was 45.
Yeah, it was definitely.
So yeah, it is kind of like interesting on the short side of things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting. So it definitely shows that I think the other episodes could be as long or as short as this one.
Yeah.
I mean to say it's as long or even longer than this one because I don't know why they would make a 20-minute episode. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No. But there's also still so much to cover, and again, we're getting bits and pieces of stuff of world building that like makes me more interested in what's going on. Like I said, the whole what's going on with the politics, right? Who's in charge? What's going on? Who's like letting shit slide, kind of stuff, right? Like we said. So it's very interesting for me to see how far like they're willing to go with this. I don't think they're gonna go too far because like that's not what ideally we're here for. We're here to find out if Thrawn or Ezra is alive. Hopefully both. Hopefully one of them is, not the other. And like bring it around. But they leave little stuff for us here and there that makes us go like, oh, now that's interesting kind of stuff, right? And I mean that's about much as I gotta say, but like I'm really excited to see where Ahsoka goes. It's probably one of the more better like Star Wars shows. It's not the best. I think it's not like season 1 Mandalorian or Andor where like we're getting a lot of crazy stuff. But like it's up there. It's getting up there, I would say. Depending on how far we go. Hopefully it's not 6 episodes. If it is, ooh, it's gonna hurt us real bad. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I would agree with that sort of sentiment. Like, it'd be neat, like, at least in terms of where I feel like the show might be trending.
Yeah.
Like, it might not be Andor's levels of good, but I feel like it's probably on course to being pretty solid for a Star Wars show for the most part, know? Which I feel like, obviously a lot of people have opinions on, like, the various other Star Wars shows, but for the most part, like Andor is like definitely up there. And it's like, wow, this is new, this is different, this is, like interesting, all that stuff. And obviously, Ahsoka kind of leans into being more into that sort of level of fan servicey of like, hey, it's these characters that we've seen in animation, but now in live action and doing interesting stuff and having all this, this thing.
I feel like fan service is probably the wrong word to use. It's more like a different like now we're seeing them in live action because we have the ability to do this in live action, right?
Yeah, and I guess it's also just like seeing them kind of grow more. Like obviously, like I guess some could argue that this is basically like a little extra like conclusion for the Rebels show, right?
Oh no, I agree. I totally agree. I can totally agree with that thought process because like it very much feels like this is the epilogue adventure to the Rebels. We're just missing like one key person, and that was Zeb, who we all saw in Mandalorian season 3. But yeah, no, I feel like it's one of those where I feel that it does feel like it's expanding on the world of Star Wars more than like some of the other like well no, I wouldn't say some of the others, but like it's expanding more on storylines that we left behind and stuff that we want to see again, that kind of stuff. It feels like a natural progression, I guess. That is what I'm trying to say, right? Because I'm not saying that Rebels ended in an open book kind of thing, and now we're continuing that story. Yeah, well, some other shows are like, we're gonna stick on our side. We'll cross over every once in a while. We're gonna stick to our side. Here's like, all right, we're continuing that plot line.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, it's been the end of the episode. Be sure to follow us on our social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at the Geek Centurions. We're most active on Instagram. We'll find a link to all the podcasts that we're officially part of, like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, all that kind of like. And you'll find a link tree to our YouTube, where you can find a face of the voice, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we have Patreon for any form of support. And yeah, that's Ahsoka episode 3. Hope to see more.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see where what other stuff we're gonna be showing in the show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyways, with me, your boy Eli.
See me, Joe.
You guys have a good one. Peace.